Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. There's a big update today with inflation data. In this video, I'm going to talk about the probability of interest rates being cut next month on August the 1st. Is it likely now? Because we've had inflation held at 2% for 2 months in a row now. So we're going to talk about that and much more. There is so much going on today. You're going to need to make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. I've also got a video coming on the King's Speech. I've got a big update on the Leasehold Reform Act, a big update on the Renters Reform Act, Section 21, and much, much more. So there is a lot of stuff to watch out for on the channel today. But first, we want to talk about inflation because we want the interest rates to drop, or I do. So do make sure you subscribe, and if you haven't done already, do smash that like, tickle the like, do something to that like button. That massively helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and it just means you're an all-round great person. So, inflation. It's still 2%. It was expected that it could have dropped. That's what the economists expected. So what did we get? Well, we've got 2% inflation for 12 months, which is target. Now, the Bank of England has moved the goalpost because they were quite clear that when we got to 2% inflation, this is what they were talking about in January, February, March, they would start cutting interest rates. We're there. We've been there for 2 months now, but it's not looking like interest rates are going to drop in August. So I want to tell you why that is and when might you expect it. So the inflation forecast for this month, so this is June's data that we're getting in July, was that we would get, June data was expected to be 1.9%. But we hit 2%. And the reason for that is mostly service inflation. This is what you're going to hear talked about in the news. So service inflation is things like restaurants, things like hotels, hairdressers, those sorts of businesses. On an annual basis, service inflation is still high. But I want to talk about why this is stupid that they're actually still not dropping rates because of this. Because service inflation is up mostly because wages are up. Now, a lot of these businesses were forced to put up the minimum wage recently by around 10%. So if you're going to force them, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm saying that those people definitely should have had higher minimum wage. But if you're going to force these businesses, it's something that's out of their control, right? They could not control that they must put their wages up. You listen to the Bank of England, all you hear them talking about is service inflation. We've got to worry about that. Wages are out of control. We've got to worry about that. But the government, the Tories, the old government, brought in this minimum wage increase. That has caused problems. Now, what's also causing problems for service-based businesses, again, something out of their control, is energy costs. They can't control the energy costs. So it's not like they're putting their prices up because they want to. It's because they have to, right? They have been forced to do that. Otherwise, a lot of them potentially would have gone bankrupt. So I feel that the government should have some sort of, or the Bank of England should have some sort of look at this and say, okay, well, this is a one-off. The wages jumped because of the minimum wage. The service stuff is going up because of the energy costs. It's out of their control. Should we look at potentially cutting rates? I think that they should. Now, before this data came out this morning, there was a 50-50 chance of an August cut. 50-50. Not bad, not great, but it was 50-50. That's dropped today significantly. August cut now is looking at 35% probability, and it will probably drop before August the 1st. So it's not looking likely at all that that might happen. Here's one thing that I think that you could get as a curveball though. So the Federal Reserve, they don't want to be political like the Bank of England, didn't want to cut rates prior to an election. The Federal Reserve are doing their best to not cut rates prior to the American election, which is all the way out in November. Here's one thing that you might want to consider though. Donald Trump is now the leading candidate. He's likely to win in America. Whether you agree with that or not, I think that's what the polls are suggesting. Now, if Donald Trump gets into power, he's likely to fire the head of the Federal Reserve and to change stuff there. So they must be thinking, we would like to protect our jobs, and potentially, which is why they did come out with a statement this week, interestingly, where they've said that they would cut interest rates way before they get to the 2% target. They're at 3% over there. They said in a statement this week, we will be cutting rates before we get to the 3%. So maybe there is a little bit more political bias on their side this time to cut rates and help Biden stick into power. Read of that what you will. That's just what I feel potentially could happen, so keep an eye on that. So interest rate cuts are down. What also has been a problem, which I talked about this last month, and I got hammered in the comments by this, but every news outlet is saying the same, is Taylor Swift, right? So Taylor Swift did some concerts in London. They were very popular. I think 1.2 million people went to them at various dates around the UK. What happened was hotel prices went through the roof. So here's an interesting fact. Some analysts have looked at this and they said, if you took out that Taylor Swift concert, so you took out when she was in London, and you ignored the increase in hotel costs because they were only higher for a few days, if you took out that data, service inflation actually dropped. So Taylor Swift did keep service inflation where it is, and it's stuck at that 5.7%. But if you take out all the impact that she had, which was a blip, which was a one-off concert for a few weeks, then service inflation was dropping in the right direction. So that would give the hint to the Bank of England that they could do something with interest rates. Let me know in the comments what you think about that one. So that is interesting analysis by some people there. Now, inflation, we peaked in October 22. It was 11.1%. We're at 2% now. We've done that for 2 months. It is expected that inflation will start rising after the summer, mostly down to energy costs. One thing that could save us on that is oil has dropped because China is expected to not need as much oil. So the price of oil has gone down dramatically over the last few weeks. That could save us from having that extra inflation. The other thing that we've got to keep an eye on is wage inflation. We'll get the data on that tomorrow. It's going to be 6%, right? It's going to be 6%. And that, again, was forced on a lot of business owners that had to put up their minimum wage. And so I just feel when you get government policies like that, we don't have an impact on that. I totally understand. If inflation is running rampant and we're all going out there, borrowing money, spending on this, buying cars, going on holidays, going to restaurants and buying Louis Vuitton clothes every 10 minutes, I get it. In that scenario, you want to stop us spending. But right now, it's not us. We have to buy energy. We don't have a choice in that. We need to keep the lights on. We need to keep our houses warm, right? And if the wages go up, that increases the service inflation. We can't control that either. So everything in this scenario is not in control of normal people like you and me. So it's a little frustrating that they're now saying that the Bank of England is cutting out this interest rate cut in August. Let me know if you think there's a chance that will happen. Do smash like, do share this button, share this video as well. Subscribe. The next video is going to be a big one. It's probably going to be a long one. I've got to tell you about the Leasehold Reform Act. There's a lot of important stuff there. I've got to tell you about the Renters Reform Bill. It's got a new name now. We need to talk about that too. And all the other impacts from the King's speech today. Busy day, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Check out all the other content on my channel, including this video right here.